Yeah, it's all great if you've had plenty of time to fish and you're totally dialed in and you got 3 rods on the deck and one of them's the one you catch and you fish on, the other 2 are dummies that are just there. You know, in a perfect world, that makes it easy. But more times than not, it's not that way. It can even be people can affect you on the lake. I had this at the Lake Fork tournament. I'm catching my fish a certain way. I didn't even get to fish any of that stuff on Saturday. There were so many people on the lake I couldn't. I had to do something totally different. Always have a backup. Just in case that, you know, you can't always fish your main deal because everybody's fishing your main deal. And there's not any place for you to fish, you know. So always have a backup. These are all things that will just help you make a bad day into a good day. You know, you drive to the lake and there's 200 boats, you know, in the parking lot. You know, those are all things that we cannot control. So you have to control all the variables that you can. So I just prepare mentally. I prepare all my equipment. I have everything ready to go, and they help me make those decisions on the water. I don't really know any other way to tell you but these things. Know what type of fish live in the lake, the dominant forage. Are we fishing for spotted bass, largemouth, smallmouth? Is it a highland reservoir? Is it a lowland reservoir? You just absorb as much information about the body of water you're going to, as much about the weather, and that's really all you can do. And the rest of it is you'll have to go with, you know, your gut feeling and make those decisions. You can be fishing down one side of the lake and the wind's blowing on the other side and the water's clear. You need to be in the wind. Even though the day before the wind was blowing out of the opposite direction and it was hitting this bank where you're fishing now. But now the wind has switched. So now it's time to pick up and go to the other side. Was wind the reason you were catching those fish? You chased the wind. Was shade the reason you were catching those fish? You chased the shade. That's all the things that you can do once you get to the lake. We've done everything else. We've done all of our research. Now we have to go with our gut. Never get locked, and that's the other deal. Nothing is ever guaranteed in bass fishing. Nothing. I've caught them all week on a pumpkin seed lizard with a chartreuse tail. That don't mean that the next day you'll ever catch another one on it or the next month. You know, because things change and you just have to be ready for that. But just chase what the current conditions are, you know, and don't ever get locked into anything that, well, this has to be this way because this is the way they are. I'll tell you another thing that helps me make on the water decisions is time. So, you know, the deal is I still old school. I wear a watch, but you know, most everybody has that Lowrance unit or whoever's unit right there in front of you with the time on it. I will give myself a time in an area also. Like you roll through a place in practice or you roll through a place and you fished 5 minutes and you catch one here and you catch one here and you're moving pretty good. You keep getting bit. You go back the day of the tournament or the next day or whatever and you don't get any bites. So the thing I'm thinking about, am I moving exactly the way I did in practice? Because I need to duplicate that because I was getting bites. And then the other deal is something's happened, something's changed. I give myself so much time, I roll out, whether that be 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I always fish on a time. I give myself a time how long I can do this. It may not be to the point where I was catching them on a spinnerbait, but I get there and there's no wind and I keep going back to spinnerbait just as an example. But I get there and there's no wind, I give that spinnerbait 15 minutes just to see if they'll bite it without any wind. Well, when they don't, then I go back to thinking about how many ways I could catch that fish. You know, could it be I need to throw a jerk bait or whatever? Give that jerk bait fit. This area's got them. I know it's got them, but I don't want to spend too much time because 15 minutes is a long time. That could be a deal where it's, depending on fish population, I might give something longer. If I'm at a lake that's really, really got them, and they were really, really biting, and now they're not really, really biting, you know, they're not biting, I won't give a bait too much time. It's time to change because I know I'm around a lot of fish. Now, it's a situation where I'm on the Ohio River. Yeah, I might give that spinnerbait 2 hours, you know, because I know that body of water doesn't have a lot of fish. Now, that's a totally different on the time deal. But still, you got to say, man, they're like these 3 logs, I know have a fish on each one of them. Well, I fish them one pass with this, one pass till I figure out what they're on. Then I can run down the lake and do that, you know. So give yourself time limits, you know. There's so many variables that go into this, and I know it's different for all fishermen, but these are just some things that work for me, you know. But time, you know, if I'm doing a technique and I'm doing it right and I'm not getting bit, it's not working. It could be a timing deal. That's the other deal I think about. I always look at the time of whenever I catch a fish. The moon phase. Again, that's all that information that we've absorbed before. We were here on a full moon this week at Gunnersville, so there was a bite window in the morning that was real small, and then the middle of the day, and it's funny how that works, because every day it got later. Everything got later. You know, it changes, and it'll do that, you know. And those are all the things that we can, all that information, the moon phase, all that stuff, we don't even have to go to the lake to have all that. We can get all that, we can have all that on us, you know. We can study all that stuff before we get there, and that will help us make these on-the-water decisions.
And the information Bass University provides isn't your basic run-of-the-mill fishing video. This is specific information from A to Z to help you learn, get to the water, and become a better angler quickly.